30 days ago, I decided to track every single dollar I spent. No exceptions, no excuses. What I found completely changed how I see money.
By day 7, I already wanted to quit. By day 30, I understood exactly where my paycheck was disappearing every single month.
This isn't a lecture about budgeting spreadsheets. This is what actually happens when an average person tracks every dollar for a month straight. If you've ever finished the month wondering where your money went, you need to see these numbers. You need to see these numbers. Because I had the exact same problem.
Stick around until the end, because the smallest expense on this list ended up costing me more than my rent by the end of the year.
Let's start from day 1, the moment I opened a blank notebook and had absolutely no idea what I was about to discover. I'm not a financial expert. I'm just someone who kept feeling broke despite having a normal paycheck coming in every 2 weeks. So I made one simple rule for myself. Every purchase, no matter how small, had to be written down the same day it happened. Coffee, parking, subscriptions, everything. I used a simple notes app on my phone because I didn't want an excuse to skip a day. The first few days felt tedious. Typing in a $2 coffee purchase seemed almost pointless compared to my rent or car payment. But by the end of week 1, a pattern was already forming that I hadn't expected to see this early into the experiment. Small charges were showing up almost every single day. Not big purchases, just a constant stream of tiny ones I barely noticed before. By week 2, I stopped judging the purchases and just focused on writing them all down, exactly as they happened, no matter how small.
That's when I noticed something strange. My bank app total didn't match what I remembered spending, not even close, off by hundreds.
Turns out, the money you don't notice leaving your account is exactly the money that quietly drains your entire paycheck every month.
So going into week 3, I decided to categorize every single expense to finally see the full picture of where my money actually went. I split everything into 6 categories: food, transportation, subscriptions, impulse buys, bills, and the mysterious catch-all category I called miscellaneous. What I found in that miscellaneous category alone was enough to completely change how I think about spending money for the rest of my life.
Let's start with food, because this is where most people think their money goes. And honestly, I expected the same thing.
I spent about $400 on groceries that month. Reasonable, but I spent over $300 on food delivery apps alone. $300 just for someone to bring food to my door, on top of groceries I had already bought and barely used.
Next category, transportation. Gas, parking, and rideshare apps combined came out to almost $200, more than I ever estimated.
But the real surprise was hiding in a category I almost forgot to track: subscriptions. The silent monthly charges nobody thinks about.
I counted 11 active subscriptions: streaming services, apps, a gym membership I hadn't used in 4 months, and 2 forgotten free trials.
Together, those 11 subscriptions were quietly pulling almost $150 from my account every single month without me noticing. That's nearly $1,800 a year, gone, for services I mostly forgot I was even paying for in the first place. Then came the category that genuinely surprised me the most: impulse buys. Small, unplanned purchases that felt harmless in the moment. A phone case here, a candle there, a random gadget from a late-night scroll session. I didn't think much of it. None of it felt like a big deal. But added together over 30 days, impulse purchases alone cost me $220. I genuinely cannot fully explain or remember. By this point in the experiment, I had already found over $600 in spending I had no real memory of doing.
and I still hadn't even looked at my actual bills yet. Rent, utilities, insurance. The expenses everyone assumes are the real problem.
Here's the twist. My actual bills were exactly what I expected. Predictable, necessary, and honestly the least surprising part of this whole month.
It wasn't rent that was draining me. It wasn't my car payment. It was hundreds of small, invisible decisions I made without thinking twice. That realization hit harder than I expected. I wasn't bad with money because of one big mistake. I was bleeding it slowly, daily.
So by day 20, I had a full month's worth of data staring back at me, and it was time to actually add it all up.
What I calculated next completely changed how I look at every single purchase I make, even the ones that feel completely harmless.
When I added every category together, food, transportation, subscriptions, impulse buys, and bills, the total came to just over $3,000. $3,000 in a single month felt like a lot. But it wasn't the total that shocked me. It was the breakdown underneath it. Almost 30% of everything I spent that month fell into categories I would have sworn were small and completely insignificant. That's nearly $1,000 on things I couldn't have named if you'd asked me before I started this experiment 30 days ago. I want to be honest with you. My income wasn't the problem. My income wasn't the mon. I was making enough money to live comfortably every single month.
The problem was that I had no idea where a third of that income was actually going, until I forced myself to look closely.
This is the part most people never see, because most people never track every dollar long enough to find the pattern underneath it. It's easy to feel like you're bad with money. It's much harder to actually prove exactly where that feeling is coming from.
Tracking every dollar didn't just show me numbers. It showed me my actual behavior, the decisions I make when nobody is watching.
And once I saw the pattern clearly, I couldn't unsee it. Every small purchase started to feel like part of a much bigger picture.
The subscriptions were the easiest fix. I canceled 4 services immediately and saved $60 a month without losing anything I actually used. The food delivery habit was harder to break because it wasn't really about hunger. It was about convenience after a long, tiring day. So instead of quitting completely, I set one simple rule. Only order delivery twice a week and plan those 2 meals in advance. That one small rule alone cut my delivery spending almost in half without making me feel like I was punishing myself for anything. The impulse buys took the most discipline. I started using a rule where anything under $50 had to wait 24 hours first. Now I always wait 24 hours first. Half the time, by the next day, I didn't even want the item anymore. The urge had already completely disappeared on its own. That 24-hour rule alone saved me almost $150 in the second half of the month compared to the first. None of these changes felt extreme. I never stopped enjoying my life. I just stopped letting small decisions happen on autopilot. By day 30, my spending in those smaller categories had dropped by almost 40% compared to where I started this whole experiment.
That's real money. Money that used to disappear every single month without me even noticing it was gone in the first place.
But the biggest change wasn't the money I saved. It was how differently I started thinking.
Do I really need this?
Do I really need this? About every single purchase I made after that. So here's what this entire experiment actually taught me, beyond just the numbers and the spreadsheets and the categories I built. Lesson 1. You cannot fix what you refuse to look at. I avoided checking my spending for years because I was afraid of the number. The fear of the number was always worse than the number itself. Once I actually looked, I finally had the power to change it.
Lesson 2. It's never one big purchase that breaks your budget. It's dozens of small ones that never feel big enough to matter.
Your brain is wired to worry about the $500 purchase and completely ignore the $5 one that happens every day. Lesson 3. Awareness alone changes behavior. I didn't need a strict budget to spend less. I just needed to see what I was doing.
The moment I started writing down every purchase, I naturally started making better decisions without forcing myself to follow any rigid rules.
Lesson 4. Subscriptions are the easiest hidden leak to fix because you're not giving anything up in the moment you cancel them.
Go check your bank statement right now for any charge you don't immediately recognize. That single habit alone can save you real money.
Lesson 5. The 24-hour rule works because most impulse purchases aren't really about the item. They're about a feeling in that moment.
Stress, boredom, celebration, all of it can trigger spending. Waiting a day gives the actual need time to separate from the emotional impulse.
Lesson 6. Budgeting isn't about restriction, it's about redirection. Every dollar I stopped wasting quietly moved towards something that actually mattered to me.
That extra $600 I found wasn't punishment money. It became the start of an actual emergency fund I never had before.
Lesson 7. You don't need a perfect system. You just need a system that's honest enough to show you the truth about yourself.
My notes app tracking method wasn't fancy, it wasn't automated, but it was honest, and honest beats fancy every single time with money.
Lesson 8. This experiment wasn't really about the money at all. It was about finally understanding my own relationship with spending decisions.
Money reflects behavior. And behavior is something you can actually change once you finally see it clearly written down in front of you. So if there's one thing I want you to take from these 30 days, it's this. You don't need more income to feel in control.
You just need clarity. And clarity starts with one simple decision. Track every dollar for 30 days, no matter how uncomfortable it feels.
Here's exactly how to start your own 30-day tracking challenge, using the same simple method I used without any complicated tools required.
Step 1. Open any notes app on your phone right now and create a new note, simply titled 30-Day Money Tracker. Step 2. Every time you spend money, write down the amount and 1 or 2 words describing what it was for immediately. Step 3. At the end of each week, group everything. This makes it really easy into simple categories like food, transportation, subscriptions, and impulse buys.
Step 4. At the end of 30 days, add every category together and look for the one that surprises you the most.
That surprising category is usually where your real opportunity is hiding. The place where small changes create the biggest financial impact. You don't need to change everything at once. Pick one category, apply one simple rule, and give it 30 days to work.
Small, honest changes compound faster than most people expect. And 30 days from now, you could be looking at a completely different picture.
If this made you want to actually check your own spending, comment the word tracking below, and I'll know you're starting today. And if you've already done something like this yourself, comment your biggest shocking discovery. I read every single one of them.
Subscribe if you want the full breakdown of exactly how I built my new budget system, using everything I learned this month.
Next week, I'm breaking down the exact 50-30-20 budget rule and why it doesn't work for everyone the same way. You don't need a raise to feel like you have more money. You need visibility into where it's already going every single day.
30 days from now, you could know exactly where your money goes. The only real question is whether you're willing to look.